Would you like to be somebody who understands the value of suffering? Then listen to this entire video where I explained how society has devalued suffering and why it's actually very useful in life to have. Before we get into it, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, and how to reduce suffering in life. Let's get into it. Now, there is a constant theme throughout society that the goal in life is to be happy. If you ask most people what their goal in life is, they'll probably produce a similar kind of answer. It's something like they want to be happy, they want to be successful, and this is great, but there's a flaw in this perspective. Now, when people say they want to be happy, what I think they really mean is they want to live in a state where suffering is absent. They don't want to suffer. So what they might say is, I want to be wealthy later on in life. That's my goal. That will make me happy. And that's not really what they mean. What they mean is they will be happy because the stress or the suffering of financial issues won't be there anymore because they'll have a lot of money. And that is then the absence of suffering because they will no longer suffer in that way. And they essentially don't want to suffer from the stress of financial insecurity. Or a different answer might be, people might say they want a lot of friends around them and a lot of family around them. And one sort of reason why they might say this is actually they don't want to be lonely later in life. They don't want to suffer from loneliness. And getting rid of that, the absence of loneliness will be if they have a lot of people around them that can keep them company. And I agree with these perspectives that aiming for an absence of suffering is very desirable and enticing, because suffering is really quite terrible to a certain degree, or it's relatively terrible. And at a societal level, we are encouraged to seek happiness also. Seeking and finding happiness is sort of what the American dream attempts to sell, I think. It tells you that if you build success and wealth, you'll be happy and suffering will be kept at bay. And to a degree, this is right, because the more wealth you have, the more money you have, monetary wealth, the more money you have, the more access you have to certain key resources, which can prevent suffering. Like, you'll be able to live in a wealthier, safer neighborhood, so the risk of criminality and being murdered is essentially lower, and you'll have more access to better healthcare and healthier food, which will keep you alive for longer and also reduce your suffering. And you'll also stress less about finances, which will produce, which originally, financial stress could, like any kind of stress, will produce cortisol in your body, which makes your body deteriorate faster and suffer, essentially. So if you can prevent that, that's great. But here is the problem. Here's the punchline and the value in suffering. So all of these goals of happiness have sort of devalued the value of suffering. And in life, without struggling, without suffering, there is no progress. There is no growth. So if you live your life in a way to avoid suffering at all costs, your probability of growing dramatically drops. And there is high utility in suffering, and society has misled people into thinking that it is better to aim for no suffering and avoid struggle than to see the value of suffering, really. And so when people experience suffering, for example, because, suffering is to a degree inevitable in life, they struggle to see the upside of suffering and how it can actually benefit them. And just simply knowing that there is value and utility in suffering can transform you, and actually it makes the entire difference of how well you persist through suffering and the outcome of life. Because let's say if you're going through a very difficult period, but let's say your girlfriend or your boyfriend broke up with you, or you got fired at work, you no longer have a job, the immediate response to that is, of course, oh no, stressed out, dissatisfaction, unhappiness, life is tough, I really don't like this. And that can consume you and actually, well, it might make you fall into a depression or some other sort of negative emotions. And simply knowing that there is utility in suffering and that what you're going through now might actually be useful and might like have happened for a reason, it's a game changer. It really is, because you have this faith that you need to stick through the suffering, persist, because it might benefit you, and it is what might even give your life meaning to a degree. And just knowing this, simply that just the knowledge of that this is the case, it's the difference between giving up or persisting through life. It really is. Letting go of yourself or sticking to your principles and staying strong. It's a game changer. So suffering can also be a synonym for discomfort. So people are also discouraged to leave their comfort zone. And this is quite dangerous, because literally discomfort means growth. Examples can be explained in two ways. Physical discomfort can make your body grow. If you're going to the gym, what you're literally doing is putting your body in physical discomfort in order for a reward later, which is muscle growth. You're ripping your muscles in order for them to, your muscle tissue, in order for them to grow back in a greater quantity later on. And that only happens, you only become physically stronger. I mean, your immune system also gets stronger when you do physical exercise. All of these things only happen if you go through the physical discomfort. And there's also a very cool idea, which is I learned from Dr. Jordan Peterson, and I believe there is also science on this, that when you put yourself into new situations out of your comfort zone, you tap into certain sections of your DNA which add some value, or this new subset to your personality, this stronger personality, which you wouldn't have been able to tap into if you hadn't gone into this new situation. Because this new situation, this discomfort, taps into your body absorbs this novel, this new information which wasn't there beforehand, and you process it, and it engages in a part of you, of your mind, your personality, your character, which you had never tapped into before, and you suddenly unlock this new skill, this new perspective on life. It's very interesting and quite fascinating. Hence, discomfort is growth, suffering is progress. Usually progress. Now, we as individuals, and consequently at a societal level, need to shift our perspective on struggle and encourage it more, I think. We need to see the duality in everything, the duality in comfort and success, in that success and comfort feels good, but it won't really make you grow in itself. And more importantly, the duality of suffering, that it is momentarily painful, of course, but it can make you stronger and grow. It's like the foundation of growth. We need to see the duality of suffering, that it is not all bad. Hence, in conclusion, society has devalued the utility of suffering, because we are encouraged to simply seek happiness and the absence of suffering through monetary wealth, social value, through having a lot of friends and family around you, and we're not encouraged to get out of our comfort zone, seek discomfort, and actually become stronger, more developed, eloquent, sophisticated human beings. We're not really encouraged to do that. Hence, at an individual and societal level, we need to encourage discomfort, struggle, and see the duality of suffering, that it is actually quite useful a lot of the time in the long term, and that discomfort is the cornerstone of growth. We need to encourage that and learn that and embed it in our perspectives in life. So that was it. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, and how to reduce suffering in life. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for listening. Oh, and before we finish, would like to give you a call to action. So try and remind yourself whenever you're in a discomforting situation, or you'll be faced with a discomforting situation, that it is vital to engage in it, because it'll make you grow. It might feel obviously uncomfortable in the moment, but it is something that will make you feel stronger afterwards, and that is key. So try and remind yourself of these things. So that was it. Thank you for listening.